This story is about a serial killer who lived in the era of Buddha. So once Buddha was walking around the town collecting alms, and he started walking on a trail that led into the woods. And the villagers came running and warned the Buddha that, well, the trail that you're trying to go, it passes through the hut of a serial killer known as Angulimal, who is a maniac, who is crazy, and he will kill you. There is no doubt about that. So Buddha, being Buddha, continued walking, and then as he came across the hut of Angulimal, Angulimal was out there standing, and as he saw Buddha walking towards him, he screamed out loud and said, "Hey monk, stop walking." And Buddha said, "I have already stopped years ago. I think you are the one that is not stable, or you are the one that's running." So, well, there are different reportings of what the exact incidence was. Maybe it was the fact that Buddha was one of the only guys that did see the human inside Angulimal that needed love. And maybe that was what touched Angulimal. So he just fell in the feet of Buddha, and then he became a monk. Well, long story short, the most interesting part of the story is once Angulimal was going around the town, and he saw a lady in labor, and he really felt bad. He wanted to help her, but in place of helping her, he came running back to Buddha, and he narrated the story. He said how he wanted to help her, but he could not. And then Buddha asked Angulimal, "Why do you say so? Why could you not help her?" And he said, "Well, I had guessed, well, maybe she would have asked me about my background, about have I ever done any crime or something like that. And I'm a monk now, so I want to be completely honest. I don't want to be in the same clutches of lies that I was at one point of my life." So I think had I told her the truth, she would have been quite startled by it. So I thought it was not appropriate for me to approach her. Well, Buddha had one of the most magical things to say. He said, "You should have told her I've never done any crime." And then Angulimal said, "Well, that's lie, right?" And then Buddha said, "Well, not really, but if you do feel this way, then you could have said, I have never done any crime in my noble birth. Because once you became a monk, you had another birth. You were reborn, which in Sanskrit we call Dvij. Just like how a hen or any bird species is born again when it hatches from the egg. So in the same way, you are reborn, so you don't need to bother about all the things that you did." And this has a very important lesson for us all. We usually tend to, or our mind does not bifurcate the fact that the past and the present are distinct. The past is dead. The past you is dead too. I mean, when you were a teenager, you had different sensibility. Now you do have different sensibility, and the future hasn't arrived, so that's irrelevant to be talking about. But the ego is a very, very strange illusion. And you need to understand why the feeling of guilt and shame exists. It has to do with evolutionary psychology. Whenever you feel pain, or whenever you get rejected, or whenever you feel insulted, or whenever you feel shamed, it is that the ego records it, because all those traits are not favorable for your health, your life, and your mating opportunities. A monkey that is shamed, or a monkey that is insulted by a tribe, or a monkey that was rejected by a potential mate, is not a monkey that will be able to procreate. So the ego records it, and the ego pressurizes you in all possible ways so that you do feel that pain as much as possible, so that you are able to learn a lesson from that opportunity and perform better the next time. So I hope you do understand where this feeling of guilt and shame and all these things come from. And this is quite natural. I mean, we are all in the human body. Ego is a part of us. It's part of the life that we have. So if ever you are lying on the bed on one of those sleepless nights and you're getting all those thoughts of maybe 4 years ago you did something very cringe, or a person who frowned on you, or the guilt that you have, or the feeling of shame or rejection, well, that's just your ego. And the ego is quite a very primitive thing. It's a very wild thing.